In this video, we'll dive deeper into the implementation process and provide a roadmap for executing the strategy. Before we jump into the details, let's understand what is a roadmap. A roadmap is a representation of the steps an organization needs to take in order to achieve a specific goal or objective. In the context of cybersecurity, a roadmap outlines the steps an organization needs to take in order to implement a cybersecurity strategy that is compliant with laws and regulations. A good roadmap should be actionable, measurable, and aligned with the organization's overall goals and objectives. It should also be flexible enough to adapt to changes in the environment and the organization's circumstances. The roadmap typically includes a timeline that outlines when specific tasks and activities will be completed, and it should be reviewed and updated regularly to ensure that it stays aligned with the organization's goals and objectives. In general, a roadmap can be a useful tool for organizations to plan, implement, and measure the progress of their cybersecurity efforts. It helps the organization to stay focused and on track towards achieving their goals. It also helps the organization to communicate and share progress with stakeholders and the head of the organization. And now let's apply it, and we'll have a use case scenario as well. Step 1. Define a project team. The first step in implementing a cybersecurity strategy is to define a project team. This team should be responsible for driving the project forward and ensuring that the strategy is properly implemented. The team should include members from IT, security, legal and compliance, and any other relevant departments. The team should also include a project manager to oversee the project and ensure that it stays on track. Step 2. Prioritize and plan. With the project team in place, the next step is to prioritize and plan. The team should review the compliance plan and determine which controls and measures need to be implemented first. They should also determine the resources needed and create a detailed project plan outlining the specific tasks and timelines for implementation. Step 3. Implement security controls. With the plan in place, the next step is to begin implementing the security controls and measures outlined in the plan. This might involve deploying security technologies, training employees on security best practices, and establishing procedures for incident response and data breaches. Step 4. Monitor and assess compliance. To ensure continued compliance, the team should regularly monitor and assess their security controls and systems. This might involve conducting regular security audits and assessments to identify any vulnerabilities or areas for improvement, and then taking steps to address them. The team should also stay informed of any updates or changes to laws and regulations that apply to their industry and make sure that any modifications are incorporated into the compliance plan. Step 5. Review and update. The cybersecurity strategy should be regularly reviewed and updated. This might include reviewing the incident response procedures and updating them if necessary, ensuring that all employees are aware of the new changes and they are trained accordingly, and making sure that the technology is up to date. Step 6. Communicate and share the progress. The progress of the project should be communicated and shared with the stakeholders, the authorizing official, or head of the organization, IT and security teams, legal and compliance teams, and any other relevant parties. This can help to ensure that the organization is on track to achieve compliance and that any issues can be identified and addressed in a timely manner. Here are the 6 steps outlining a roadmap for implementing a cybersecurity strategy that is compliant with NCAECC and other regulations in Saudi Arabia, along with explanations and elaborations which will give an example. It's important to note that these steps are a general guide and the specific tasks and timelines will vary depending on the organization's resources and specific circumstances. Additionally, it's important to communicate the progress and updates to the stakeholders and authorizing official or head of the organization, to keep them informed and take their feedback into consideration. To understand it further, here is a case scenario of how an accounting firm in Saudi Arabia could use the roadmap to implement a cybersecurity strategy that is compliant with NCAECC and other regulations. Step 1. Define project team. The accounting firm assembles a project team that includes representatives from IT, security, legal and compliance, and the finance department. The team also assigns a project manager to oversee the project and ensure that it stays on track. Step 2. Prioritize and plan. The team reviews the compliance plan and determines that the most important controls to implement first are firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and data encryption. They also determine that they need to hire an additional IT staff member to assist with the implementation and training. A detailed project plan is created outlining specific tasks and timelines for implementation. Step 3. Implement security controls. The IT staff member is hired and begins deploying firewalls and intrusion detection systems. Data encryption is also implemented on all sensitive information. Employee training on incident response procedures is also conducted. Step 4. Monitor and assess compliance. The team conducts regular security audits and assessments to identify vulnerabilities or areas for improvement. They stay informed of any updates or changes to laws and regulations and incorporate them into the compliance plan. Step 5. Review and update. The incident response procedures are reviewed and updated. Employees are trained on the new changes and the technology is kept up to date. Step 6. Communicate and share progress. The team shares progress with the stakeholders, authorizing official or head of the organization, IT and security teams, legal and compliance teams, and any other relevant parties. There are a few additional items that can be added to the roadmap depending on the specific circumstances and needs of the organization. Risk assessment. Conducting a comprehensive risk assessment to identify and prioritize the organization's assets, vulnerabilities, threats, and impacts. This will help the organization to identify the most critical areas to focus on and align the cybersecurity strategy with the organization's risk management approach. Business continuity and disaster recovery planning. Developing and testing a business continuity and disaster recovery plan that outlines procedures for maintaining or restoring critical business functions in the event of a disruption. Compliance and auditing. Regularly conducting compliance audits and assessments to ensure that the organization is meeting its regulatory and compliance requirements. Incident response. Developing and testing incident response procedures and plans that provide guidance on how to respond to and manage incidents in a timely and effective manner. These additional items can be added to the roadmap and be included in the video script to be more comprehensive. It's important to note that this is just one example and the specific tasks and timelines will vary depending on the specific circumstances of the accounting firm. Additionally, it's important to communicate the progress and updates to the stakeholders and authorizing official or head of the organization, to keep them informed and take their feedback into consideration. Implementing a cybersecurity strategy that is compliant with laws and regulations can be a complex and ongoing process, but by following a roadmap such as the one outlined in this video, organizations can ensure that they are properly protecting sensitive information and meeting their legal and regulatory obligations. By following these steps and best practices, organizations can ensure that their cybersecurity plans, goals, initiatives, and projects are contributing to compliance with relevant laws and regulations.